Have you ever wondered why a child sometimes thinks you're 50 years older than you really are? Or why grandma always wants to pinch those chubby little cheeks? Or why even teenagers prioritize their friends over their responsibilities and family? It's all in development. I'm here today to inform you about how mental development matures and advances throughout different stages of life. These mental development stages are composed of childhood, early adulthood, middle adulthood, and late adulthood. Maybe after I'm done speaking, you will understand why you think and understand and experience things the way that you do in your stages of life. Now that I've discussed with you what's going to happen within the speech, let's talk about the first developmental stage known as childhood. Childhood is a stage where you build self-reliance and you have an identity within society. From birth to 11 years old, your main focus is from social and learning progression. Biology in Focus states that as an infant, you have weak neurons within your brain and you're very underdeveloped. This means that constant caregiving is required. Neurons are chemical messengers in the brain that help form memories, emotions, and experiences. Lifespan Development by John Santrock states that in early childhood, you have simple education such as alphabet and numbers, and you learn tasks that are self-sufficient. In middle childhood, reading, writing, and arithmetic come into play. At this age, children also tend to be exposed to more cultural and societal events that make them have a desire for more self-control, no matter their age. From ages 12 to 18 comes in conformity and identity. The Advancement Placement Psychology textbook states that at the ending of childhood, also known as adolescence, you have mastered logical and abstract thinking. John Santrock states in Lifespan Development that social development and identity appears due to enforced social interactions such as with friends and classmates in school. Although mental development seems very good for a person, sometimes development can go wrong. This is called mental disorders. Two of the common mental disorders that we will be discussing is autism, which is delay in education, and Asperger's syndrome, which is difficulty with socialization. According to the Encyclopedia of the Brain and the Brain Disorders, autism in this stage slows learning and it can stop independence from family members and caregivers and can even stop from going to the next stage. Social Skills for People with Asperger's Syndrome by Nancy states that socializing difficulties cause isolation and loneliness. This can halt the creation of friendships and make it very hard to move on to the next stage. Now that we have discussed what occurs in childhood, we will now discuss what happens in early adulthood. Early adulthood is characterized by the establishment and intimacy. This usually ranges from the 20s to the 30s. This is a time where independence from caregivers happens, and also it forms intimate relationships. According to Lifespan Development, the reason that people are able to be independent during this stage is because they have developed temperament. Good temperament is characterized by the ability to behave and understand different situations and be able to handle them respectively. In the Advanced Placement Psychology textbook, full development of the prefrontal lobe has happened. The prefrontal lobe helps with decisions, impulse, and plans, and this helps for the person to have responsibility for finances and relationships. Now that we have discussed what happens in adulthood, there is something that happens with mental disorders. Autism in early adulthood can cause issues with maintaining a job. This can hurt establishment and halt to the next stage. In Asperger's syndrome, it's hard to find intimate relationships, which also can stop from going to the next stage, which can cause difficulty later in life. Now that we have discussed what early adulthood is, we will now discuss what happens within the next stage known as middle adulthood. Middle adulthood is characterized by family bonds and job satisfaction. This happens within the ages of the 40s to the 60s. And people in middle adulthood tend to spread experience to the younger generations and better their environment. By this time, people in these stages, according to lifespan development, are grandparents or even just parents, and they attempt to share their knowledge and wisdom. They also would like to stay closer to siblings and children because family bonds are viewed as stronger. Lifespan development also suggests that during this time, people are at the pinnacle of their careers and they use their wisdom and knowledge to maintain satisfaction within their job. Now that we have discussed middle adulthood, we will now go to the very last stage known as late adulthood. Late adulthood is characterized by self-fulfillment and life satisfaction for a life well lived. This tends to occur between the 70s all the way up to death. Lifespan development discusses retirement, and you also become older and weaker, and you want to spend more time doing relaxing activities. Lifespan also characterizes that you need more assistance because of the weakening neurons and body tissues. This means that all the gained trust from family throughout the years is the reason why older people tend to seek family in their time of need. Some mental disorders that could happen in late adulthood is autism, which the problem that could happen is that people tend to feel inferior and feel like they have unfulfilled their jobs in life because they had always been below others in regards to their development. With Asperger's syndrome, lack of friendships and isolation can still occur, which means people will tend to live out the rest of their lives lonely and with a bad attitude. So, people go through varying stages of development. Now that we have discussed all of the late adulthood, we will now end and characterize with how all of these fit together as a whole in life. People go through varying stages of life, and they have changing perspectives that occur that can either make or break them. It's their job to use these to either help fulfill their lives or to destroy them. These stages are childhood, early adulthood, middle adulthood, and late adulthood. Next time you have an experience, make sure that you take it, because you never know how much it'll help you to lead into your next and maybe even final stage of development.